Conservatism. Conservatism, like the name says, is about preserving traditional Western values. Conservatives are like your grandma's furniture, sturdy, traditional, and allergic to sudden change. It supports the nuclear family, religion, national defense, and private property. Conservatives prefer slow, steady change, nothing drastic. Basically, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and maybe iron your shirt while you're at it. Liberalism. Liberalism is one of the most dominant ideologies in modern political history. At its core, it emphasizes individual rights, civil liberties, and democratic governance. Liberals believe that everyone should be treated equally under the law. They support things like freedom of speech, the press, religion, and assembly. Liberalism also prefers the separation of church and state, checks and balances between government branches, and fair elections between multiple political parties. Moderatism. Moderatism sticks to what's called the Overton window, the range of political ideas that are acceptable to the mainstream population. Moderates often don't fully lean left or right. They usually want balance, compromise, and practical solutions. In many cases, moderates are less politically active but still have opinions. They just avoid the extremes. Capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system built on private ownership of production and operating for profit. It thrives on competition, individual entrepreneurship, and the idea that people should be free to buy, sell, and own property. It also supports division of labor, where different people do different specialized jobs to maximize efficiency and productivity. Socialism. Socialism is a broad umbrella term with many forms. Traditionally, it supports collective ownership of the means of production, like factories and land. Modern socialism usually supports strong government involvement in the economy, high taxation on the wealthy, public services, and reducing income inequality. Its goal is to shift power from capital owners to the workers. Syndicalism. Syndicalism is like a worker-powered version of socialism. It emphasizes labor unions, decentralized organizations called syndicates, and believes direct action like strikes is the path to achieving a socialist society. Instead of a government ruling everything, syndicalists imagine a congress of syndicates working together to run society. Corporatism. Corporatism proposes that society should be organized into sectors, like agriculture, business, or industry, and each one has representatives who work together with the state to make decisions. It aims to reduce class conflict by having workers, business owners, and the government all cooperate. It's not the same as corporatocracy, which is ruled by big businesses. Libertarianism. Libertarianism values freedom a lot. It seeks to minimize government interference in people's lives. It supports private property, civil liberties, free markets, and voluntary association. Libertarians oppose most forms of taxation and regulation, arguing that the best society is one where individuals are left alone to pursue their own lives. Separatism. Separatism, also called secessionism, is when a group wants to break away from an existing nation to form its own independent state. The reasons can be cultural, religious, ethnic, linguistic, or even economic. Think Catalonia, Scotland, or South Sudan. Communism. Communism seeks a stateless, classless society where all property is publicly owned. The idea is to distribute goods based on need rather than wealth or labor. There's no private property, no money, and no social classes. In theory, it's a society of complete equality, but in practice, it's often been led by strong centralized states. Feminism. Feminism is the belief that women and men should be treated equally in all areas, political, economic, and social. It critiques societies for prioritizing male experiences and works to eliminate gender-based discrimination. Feminism fights against stereotypes and advocates for reproductive rights, workplace equality, and education access. Anarchism. Anarchism believes that society functions best without rulers or centralized authority. It supports stateless societies built on voluntary cooperation, mutual aid, and horizontal organization. Anarchists argue that power corrupts and that people should govern themselves without coercive systems. Environmentalism. Environmentalism, or green politics, believes that nature and ecosystems should be protected and prioritized in public policy. It advocates for reducing pollution, combating climate change, preserving biodiversity, and transitioning to sustainable energy. Some environmentalists focus on individual behavior, others on systemic change. Populism. Populism is less about specific policies and more about style. It claims to represent the people against a corrupt or disconnected elite. Populists can be right-wing, left-wing, or neither, as long as they focus on mass support and common-sense solutions over traditional institutions. It thrives in democracies and often frames politics as a battle between good and evil. Egalitarianism. Egalitarianism is all about equality. It says that every human should be treated equally, regardless of race, gender, class, or ability. It opposes all forms of discrimination and hierarchy and pushes for equal rights under the law. Republicanism. Republicanism opposes monarchy. It supports a government where power comes from the people and is exercised through elected representatives. It emphasizes civic duty, rule of law, and the idea that no one should be above the law, not even a king. Progressivism. Progressivism embraces reform. It believes that societies should evolve to be more just, equal, and inclusive. Progressives often support universal healthcare, civil rights, and climate action. It's the ideological opposite of conservatism. It doesn't want to preserve the past. It wants to improve on it. Imperialism. Imperialism is when a powerful nation extends its control over other countries, often through military force, colonization, or economic domination. It was once widely accepted and practiced by European powers. Modern critics argue it exploits weaker nations under the guise of helping them modernize. Communitarianism. Communitarianism prioritizes the community over the individual. It argues that the common good should sometimes outweigh personal freedom. It criticizes both extreme individualism and rigid partisanship, instead favoring policies that strengthen relationships and social cohesion. Authoritarianism. Authoritarianism centers power in a single authority or small elite group. It discourages opposition, limits civil liberties, and often controls media and education. Authoritarian regimes demand obedience and often use fear and propaganda to stay in power. Fascism. Fascism believes in strength through unity, nationalism, and obedience to a strong central authority. It's authoritarian, ultranationalist, and anti-democratic. Fascist regimes suppress dissent, glorify the state, and often rely on violence and military strength to achieve their goals. Nazism. Nazism is a racist form of fascism built around the belief in Aryan superiority. It adds ideas like racial purity, eugenics, and anti-Semitism to fascist principles. Under Nazism, groups deemed subhuman, including Jews, Roma, disabled people, and homosexuals, were persecuted or killed. It's considered one of the most dangerous ideologies in history. Transhumanism. Transhumanism wants humans to evolve with science. It dreams of fixing disease, boosting IQs, maybe even living forever. Think brain chips, robot arms, and cryo-sleep pods. It's either our next big leap or the plot of a cautionary sci-fi movie.